Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior and welcome to another Mortal Kombat video. Now today in my remastered History of series, I'll be talking about none other than Kung Lao. So in this video, not only will I be talking about him in the old and the new timeline, but I will be briefly touching on the history of his ancestor, the Great Kung Lao, as it's very clear that his influence passes from generation to generation to the point where a monk was named after him. Now before this video does start, I do want you to all know that these videos are designed to get you up to date with the character just before Mortal Kombat 11's release, as it will help you all get a bit more familiar with who they are. So I will be going from the very first appearance to the most recent timeline. Anyway, without any further ado, let's begin. Pre-Mortal Kombat. Now, although Kung Lao didn't make his debut in the first Mortal Kombat game, he has extremely deep ties to the main character of the series, Liu Kang. You see, Kung Lao was brought up in the White Lotus Society, an organization made of monks that were protected by the god Raiden. So Lao grew up in the Shaolin Monastery under rather strict rules. But Lao was a very good student and wanted to honor his ancestors. You see, Lao himself was actually a descendant of the Great Kung Lao, an idolized figure within the White Lotus Society. You see, centuries back, when Earthrealm was on the brink of collapse because of Outworld winning 9 consecutive Mortal Kombat tournaments, the Shaolin Temple was able to produce the finest warrior the world had ever seen at that point, and that is the Great Kung Lao. He was deemed unstoppable, defeating anyone in his way, and he was able to defeat the current champion of Mortal Kombat at the time, Shang Tsung. Now because of Kung Lao's achievements, he was able to thwart Shao Kahn's plans and push back Outworld's forces, defending Earthrealm and keeping it out of Shao Kahn's clutches. However, despite his notable victory, it would simply not last, as the Great Kung Lao would be defeated by the Shogun Prince Goro, and sadly he did perish in this battle. Now although the Great Kung Lao is dead, his spirit and teachings do live on, influencing many generations even when he was gone. He's understandably still idolized by many, as he did save Earthrealm, even if it was in this one instance. So that legend lives on in the Shaolin Monastery and is used as a way of influencing the monks in order to allow them to become something much more than they currently are. These legends would influence both Liu Kang and Kung Lao. Now as you would expect, Liu Kang and Kung Lao would grow up together and they formed a very tight-knit bond. The pair were like brothers. Even when they sparred together and Liu was able to gain the upper hand on Lao, he was proud for himself and Liu, as by training together they were considered the strongest fighters in the monastery. Now despite Liu Kang's merits, Kung Lao was in fact the first individual they reached out to when it came to choosing someone to represent them in the Mortal Kombat tournament, and although at first he was flattered by their request, he knew the duties and consequences of what it was like becoming a Mortal Kombat champion, and thus he did decide to decline, allowing Liu Kang to in fact take his place. And of course, as we all do know, Liu was successful in defeating both Goro and Shang Tsung. Now despite Outworld's defeat, the Emperor Shao Kahn did not take this loss well and began to attack Shaolin temples across Earthrealm, with the White Lotus Society being one of the victims. Now though Kung Lao was able to fight off a large majority of the Tarkatan horde, he was not able to save everyone. So when Liu Kang finally returned back to the monastery from the first tournament, they would travel around assembling Earthrealm's defenders to fight back against Outworld. Now Lao in this universe actually considers himself a pacifist, but after what had happened, he understandably wanted to avenge his brothers and help rebuild the White Lotus Society at the Wuxi Academy, as they lost so many members, and he knew that he would have to become a teacher to train a new generation of fighters. Now during an Outworld assault, Raiden would appear and be approached by Shang Tsung, who told them that there would be another Mortal Kombat tournament, but this time it would be taking place in Outworld, and that if they lost, then Shao Kahn would end all interest in Earthrealm. So as you would expect, they would accept this invitation, and during the end of the second game, Liu Kang was able to defeat Shao Kahn, but again Shao Kahn wouldn't accept this defeat and send the Earthrealmers back home so that he could prepare for an invasion. Mortal Kombat 3. Now during the third game there is no actual tournament. Shao Kahn has begun his mass invasion of Earthrealm and is planning on completely tearing apart the realm in order to get what he wants. Now after many have perished, Kung Lao eventually comes face to face with the Emperor and the two do battle, but it's very clear that it's too much for Lao to handle and the Shaolin warrior is seemingly killed by the Emperor. Now upon his death, Liu Kang would avenge his fallen brother and defeat Shao Kahn once again. Mortal Kombat 4. Now it's here where we learn that Kung Lao didn't actually die. After he was struck down by Shao Kahn, he decided to disappear and somewhat re-evaluate his life and the belief of his ancestors. But the peace wouldn't at all last long, as the fallen elder god known as Shinnok had risen and was waging a massive assault across the realms. So he would fight back against Shinnok and his Brotherhood of Shadow, but eventually he caught word that Goro had mysteriously mysteriously resurfaced. Believing that he died in the first tournament, Kung Lao would actively seek out the Shogun in order to avenge his ancestor. Now Lao would strike right after Goro had signed a peace treaty with the Centaurs, but instead of assassinating the Shogun prince, he dealt him a ceremonial blow, one that he believed avenged the loss of the Great Kung Lao. Now although Goro was shocked by this attack, he had a lot of respect for Kung Lao and also the Great Kung Lao, so he would make peace with his descendants and the two would part ways. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Now after Shao Kahn and Shinnok's defeat, it ushered in a few years of peace, and Kung Lao was able to go on with his life, teaching new students at the Wuxi Academy. But as expected, tragedy would strike, as the sorcerer Shang Tsung had teamed up with Quan Chi, and together they would blindside Liu Kang and kill the champion of Mortal Kombat. Now it was Lao that found his body, and when he learnt from Raiden about the formation of the Deadly Alliance, he would immediately vanquish his pacifist nature, wanting revenge against the pair of them. So after Raiden had assembled Earthrealm's forces to take them down, Kung Lao would train with one of Liu Kang's teachers, Bo Rai Cho, and it's here where Kung Lao's skills tremendously improved, as he learned a plethora of new techniques. But it clearly wasn't enough, as when the Earthrealm defenders went after the Deadly Alliance, all were slain by the two sorcerers, including Kung Lao. Mortal Kombat Deception. Now this wouldn't be the end for Kung Lao, as you see after Raiden was defeated by Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, the Dragon King Onaga would arise and overpower the two sorcerers and the Thunder God, with Raiden in fact sacrificing his life in the hopes that he would be able to stop the Dragon King, but his sacrifice was in vain. Now the reason why they wanted to stop Onaga so bad was because this was not only just a powerful being, but he was a master of the dark arts and was known for his army that was unstoppable, as he could heal any injury and bring anyone back from the dead. So after Raiden had sacrificed himself, Onaga would raise all of the Earthrealm warriors that were killed by the Deadly Alliance as his servants, and he would use them to cause destruction wherever he went. Now during the end of Deception, the spirit of Liu Kang teams up with Ermac and Shigenko, and together the trio are successful in defeating Onaga and freeing the Earthrealmers of Onaga's influence. So Kung Lao is brought back to life, but once again it's the Mortal Kombat universe. Peace never ever lasts long. Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Now Armageddon is a very important point in time for the Mortal Kombat universe, as it sparks the end of the original timeline and the end for many characters. Now we learn during the events of Armageddon that Kung Lao has teamed up with Fujin in order to save Raiden and Liu Kang. As you see, Liu Kang at this point in time still doesn't have an actual body. He's simply in spirit form, and he's struggling to keep this form intact, as he has been separated from his physical body for a very long time. So they are hoping they can reunite the soul and the body once again. As for Raiden, Kung Lao and Fujin fear what he has become, as it doesn't seem like the Thunder God is the defender of Earthrealm anymore. In fact, in the words of Fujin, he has become as ruthless as Shao Kahn. So together the two would try their best in order to reunite Liu Kang with his body and purge Raiden of his corrupted state. However, during the final battle of Armageddon, we know that Kung Lao perishes by the hands of Shinnok, but not before he can split Baraka in two. But yes, this is the official canon death of Kung Lao in the original timeline. Mortal Kombat 9. Now Kung Lao in this universe is actually very different from his original timeline counterpart. He's very arrogant, he's very sharp-tongued, and he always does seem eager for a fight, which in many ways makes him a polar opposite to what we've seen of him before, especially when we think that Kung Lao was a pacifist for the first few games. In this universe, he clearly has a bit more of a chip on his shoulder and wears his ancestry on his sleeve, as he's very proud of being a descendant of the Great Kung Lao. But this arrogance is what ultimately does lead to his downfall. Now during the events of the first Mortal Kombat tournaments, we at first believed that Kung Lao is actually absent, as in the original timeline he doesn't make his debut till the second game. However, it does seem like here, Kung Lao has in fact infiltrated the tournaments, as he wishes to also represent the White Lotus Society alongside Liu Kang, but because they had only chosen Liu, Lao was understandably quite jealous, and forced himself into the tournament in order to prove himself. But as expected, his overconfidence is his downfall, and he is defeated by Scorpion. Now Kung Lao can be seen at the Wuxi Academy, where Liu Kang is being given his award for defeating Shang Tsung and Goro, saving Earthrealm of Outworld's invasion. Now it is a very joyous event, but during the evening the Wuxi Academy would be attacked by a Tarkatan horde, as Shang Tsung was presenting a new tournament to Raiden, but when Raiden declines it, Shang Tsung starts the attack. Now in the morning, after many of the monks are dead, Raiden decides that it's time to fight back, and the Earthrealm defenders would accept Shao Kahn's invite for Outworld's Mortal Kombat tournament. Now whilst the Earthrealmers are exploring Outworld, Kung Lao, Liu Kang and Raiden catch word of some of the Wuxi Academy monks monks that have been kidnapped. Apparently they were being put on ships to be sold as slaves. So the Shaolin brothers would interfere with Raiden and they were able to free the Shaolin monks. Now not long after Sonya is saved by Johnny and Jax, they learn from Jade, Kitana's best friend, that Kitana's learnt of her heritage and that Shao Kahn is keeping her imprisoned in a tower for her execution. Now since Liu Kang and Kitana have a bit of a weird relationship, Liu would understandably want to rescue her, but Kung Lao wouldn't allow him to do this alone, so he would travel with him to the tower, throwing jokes and winding up Liu Kang that Kitana was his girlfriend. Now whilst in the tower, they would be confronted by the likes of Shiva, Noob Saibot and Goro. Now after defeating the Shogun, they learn from interrogating him that Kitana has been taken to Shao Kahn's Colosseum, as it's here where she'll be publicly executed. Now out of frustration, Liu Kang would knock him out, and the pair of them would travel to the Colosseum. Now when they arrive at the tournament, it seems like the battle is in Outworld's favour, as Johnny Cage is defeated by Ermac. Now Raiden encourages Liu to participate, but at this point in time he's much more interested in saving Kitana, so he would go to free her whilst Kung Lao took his place. Now Lao would go up against the likes of Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, defeating the pair of them, and finally battle and defeat the Shogun known as Kintaro. Now this understandably upsets the Outworld crowd, so Kung Lao begins openly mocking them and taunting them, getting the crowd really riled up. But once again, his arrogance is what gets the best of him, and in the middle of his celebration, he has his neck snapped by Shao Kahn. So this is the canon death of Kung Lao in this timeline, and unlike the original, he's definitely dead here. Now Lao can be seen during the final chapter of MK9, but it's here where we learn that Kung Lao has been brought back as a revenant and servant of Quan Chi, and a Shaolin monk would remain in his service for many years to come. Mortal Kombat X. Now 25 years would pass by. Shinnok was defeated and imprisoned within his amulet, and Quan Chi is currently on the run from the special forces, dipping in and out of hiding with his revenants to protect him. Now at one point, Quan Chi attempts to return back to his fortress in the Netherrealm, but when he's close, he's ambushed by the special forces, with Jax and Kenshi leading the charge. Now the battle is complete anarchy, and the revenant horses are killed, forcing the revenant Liu Kang and Kung Lao to escort Quan Chi on foot. However, as they get closer to the fortress, Kung Lao sees Jax catching up, so he does stay behind in order to buy more time and defeat the former revenant. But of course, Jax proves to be far too much for Kung Lao, and he is defeated. Now Lao disappears for a few chapters, but does re-emerge when Quan Chi is successful in releasing Shinnok from his amulet. The fallen elder god is greeted by the revenants, and together they would travel to the Jinsei chamber, as Shinnok wished to corrupt Earthrealm's life force. Now the revenants would attack Bo Rai Cho in order to get Raiden's attention. By doing so, they were able to draw him out and keep him outside while Shinnok corrupted the Jinsei. Now the revenants begin what I can only deem is bullying Raiden, until the thunder god decides to fight back. Now Raiden at first is actually overwhelmed, but once the revenants pull back their attack, he's able to shock the water under their feet, electrocuting a handful of them and knocking them out. But luckily Kung Lao had sensed this, and was able to jump out of the way when it happened. Now as you would expect, Raiden is confronted by Kung Lao, and Raiden does try to apologize to him, but Kung Lao doesn't want any of it, and before they fight, says that Raiden is responsible for his demise. Now the two do fight, and as expected, the Thunder God proved to be too much for Kung Lao. Now Raiden doesn't get too far, as once he's able to fight off the revenants and enter the Jinsei chamber, he is captured by Shinnok. Now when Cassie's team infiltrates the Sky Temple, Kung Lao can be seen amongst the other revenants protecting it. You see, at this point in time, Kung Lao is trying to find a way to enter the realm of the Elder Gods, but Raiden's magic is somehow preventing them from doing so, and as such goes off to dispatch the protective wards. But when he returns, he finds Kitana and Sindel defeated by Cassie's team, so he would engage in a fight with Jackie and Takeda. From this point, it's not long until Shinnok is defeated by Cassie, and the revenants are freed of their master once more. Now although we do not see it, the revenants return back to the Netherrealm, and Liu Kang and Kitana become Emperor and Empress of the Netherrealm. And judging by what we've seen in the trailers, it seems like Kung Lao is still in his revenant form and is sticking close to Liu Kang. But yes guys, that's actually it for the history of Kung Lao. But yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and learnt more about Kung Lao as a character by doing so. Many people consider Kung Lao like a knockoff brand of Liu Kang, but I think there's a lot more going for Kung Lao as a character, especially in the reboot where he's much more brash and arrogant than his original timeline counterpart. It's a very interesting take on the character, and it's nice to see them explore more about Liu Kang and Kung Lao's personality. It really does help separate the two of them. But yeah guys, that's actually it for this video. Now with Mortal Kombat 11 only a few weeks away, will you be interested in playing Kung Lao? Let me know down below. But yeah, that's it for now. So before this video wraps up, if possible, let's try getting it to about 500 likes. It's a great way of supporting this channel since YouTube's ad system is broken as hell. So by giving it a thumbs up, it helps me out and most certainly helps you out. And also don't forget to tick that bell, as YouTube will always seemingly have the problem of my videos not appearing in your sub boxes. So by doing that, it's going to help me out and most certainly help you out. Now as always, please comment, like, subscribe and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care and I'll see you all next time.